This is the second mini-lecture for section 6.3 of the textbook. Now, we can also use the number line to illustrate products. Doing something like 5 times 2/3 would be pretty simple. You just add 2/3 to itself 5 times. Doing something like 2/3 times 5 is more complicated because I want to illustrate 2/3 of 5. So, how would I do that? So here's how we can do that. Let's draw a number line that goes out to 5. Let's get that a little bit over. Okay, now I want to think about dividing this 5 into 3 equal parts. So to do that, I'm going to begin by marking the thirds out on this. That's going to give me 15 thirds. Right? 5 is 15 thirds. So let me think about this. What is 2/3 of 15? Well, it's 10. Or here's another way of putting it. 1/3 of 15 is 5. So if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 thirds, 5 thirds, 5 thirds. There's 5 divided into 3 equal parts. Okay, now I take 2 out of those 3 equal parts. And that's 2/3 of 5. So that represents the answer, which is 1, 2, 3, and 1/3. Okay, so again, we're using that idea that 2/3 times something is 2/3 of that thing, which means divide that thing into 3 equal parts and take 2 of those parts. Now let's talk about division. And we're going to begin by working through a division problem before we even learn how division works. There's rules for computing divisions of fractions, and I know that you learned those in grade school, but let's not talk about all that yet. Let's try to just use common sense reasoning to arrive at an answer. So suppose we have a farmer with a field that's 2.5 acres. We're told that 1 bag of fertilizer is enough to cover 3/4 of an acre. We want to know how many bags he needs to cover the field. Exactly how many bags, down to a fraction of a bag. So let's draw a little schematic diagram of his field. Of course, it might not be shaped this way, but that doesn't really matter. Let's use a square to represent an acre. And he's got 2.5 acres, so we need 2.5 squares. And we're told that 1 bag is enough for 3/4 of an acre. And we want to know how many bags we need in all. So let me just shade in 1/4 right there. Okay, 3/4. So there's 1 bag. Okay, then he uses a second bag, and he could use that to cover this area. I'm trying to color it a little differently so we can tell them apart. Okay, that's a second bag. So we'll just write 1 bag again. Okay, now he has a third bag. Okay, 1 bag again. So that's 3 bags so far. So it's 3 plus a piece. Okay, the question is, how much of a bag is that? So think about that. Pause and think for a moment, because I think this is important. Okay, if you think it's a quarter of a bag, then you're thinking in terms of acres rather than bags. See, that's a quarter of an acre. But think about what a bag covers. A bag covers these little L-shaped regions. And this is actually a third of one of those regions. This is a third of what can be covered by 1 bag. So that little part there is 1/3 of a bag. Okay, so the answer is that we need 1, 2, 3 1/3 bags. So we were able to figure this out just using common sense and pictures. We didn't actually work out a division on paper. But let's think about what we're doing. So in this question, we're answering the question, how many 3/4 fit into 2 1/2? So in other words, what is 2 1/2 divided by 3/4? And the answer we got was 3 1/3. 2 1/2 divided by 3/4 is 3 1/3. So here's the definition of division, okay, which we'll state after we've actually performed our first division. So if a and b are rational numbers with b not equal to 0, then the quotient a divided by b is the unique rational number c such that a is equal to b times c. Well, this is actually the exact same definition we had for whole numbers and for integers, except now we just say the quotient. We don't have to say if it exists, because for rational numbers it always exists. So let's check our work. According to what we just did, we should have 3/4 times 3 1/3 equals 2 1/2. So we'll work that out. So let's see, 3/4 times 10/3. That's 30/12, which I can simplify to 5/2, which is 2 1/2. So that works out. So 2 1/2 divided by 3/4 is 3 1/3. Okay, so we were able to solve that problem using common sense reasoning, and often common sense reasoning is all we need. So for example, what is 7/8 divided by 1/2? Well, let's see here. 1/2 is 4/8. So what is 7/8 divided by 4/8? So that's the same as asking what is 7 divided by 4. Well, the answer is 7/4, or 1 3/4. Or again, what is 7 halves divided by 3/4? Well, 7 halves is, let's see, 14/4. So what is 14/4 divided by 3/4? Yeah, what is 14 anything divided by 3 anything? Well, it's whatever 14 divided by 3 is. So we're really asking, what is 14 divided by 3? Well, the answer is 14/3. Or in other words, 4 2/3. Yes, 4 2/3 threes that fit into 14. Okay, but it's helpful to have a rule when common sense reasoning doesn't help.